All right, everyone. Welcome to the show. Thank y'all so much for tuning in on this special Thursday night show. It's been a while since we was able to do one on a Thursday, but I'm really excited to be back in the saddle today, even though today was a pretty dark day for everyone out there. I understand how everyone is feeling at the moment. I had friends and family texting me all day and messaging all day. And, we were sitting back with anticipation, wondering what was going to happen with the big bullshit bill. And now we've found out that it's passed. And so, here we are. I know it's not easy, but we got to just keep speaking up, speaking out, letting our voices be heard, and standing up against this authoritarianism. And so that's what we're going to do. And I've got a special group of people that's going to be joining me today to talk about the bill and to talk about what it means to still be protesting, and especially what it means to be protesting in a red state like Kentucky. I live over here on the Tennessee side now. But I grew up in Kentucky because I'm right on the state line. So I grew up over in Bell County. I know what it's like to grow up in a blood red place like that and still live in a blood red place like that. So a lot of times, when people like us in small towns starts protesting, a lot of times we get met with a lot of mockery, and we get met with a lot of people that says, "What are y'all protesting for?" There's a whole lot of people that can't figure out why we're doing it. So we're going to be here today talking about why we're doing it and talking about this bill. And I have got the fine folks from Kentucky Resist, who has started up this movement to start having protests. And they've been doing them in towns like Manchester and Middlesboro and different places. And so I'm excited to be bringing them on. And so first, we're going to introduce to y'all. We have with us Andrew and Ario. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
I really do appreciate it. So I just wanted to know right out of the gate, tell everybody where you're from and kind of what inspired you to get this whole thing going.
Yes. So I am from Corbin, Kentucky. I was one of the co-organizers that first came up with the idea of KY Resist, and we all came together because we saw how much people were struggling. During this time, we see so much fascism going on right now. And I think it's so important to be a voice for people who feel marginalized, who feel oppressed, and to come together as one and stand up for what we believe in.
Yeah. And I think, there's a whole lot more people. I tell people this all the time on the channel. I tell them, there's a whole lot more people who are tired of this that in this part of the world than people would think. When they look to Kentucky and Tennessee, they automatically just, especially people, that doesn't come here and aren't from here. I'll travel out to California and they'll say, "Dang, it's really red where you're at," because they see it on television. And I say to them, there's a lot of good people who are out speaking out. And so I'm really glad to see that you all are starting this movement, especially in a blood red place like Kentucky.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so you, I know the first one that was really brought to my attention, and I'm really sorry, you had one in Middlesboro, correct?
Yeah.
Because I'm really sorry I missed that one. That's the town I grew up in, but I didn't realize one was happening there. I kept getting like kind of mixed reports like on what was going on there, so I wasn't sure one was happening. Yeah. And then I drove on down to Knoxville, and when I got back, people was like, "Hey, there's people in Middlesboro." I was like, "Crap, if I'd have known, I'd have stopped by." So I know you've done it in Middlesboro, and you've done it in Manchester. And then, this Saturday, is it 4 to 7? You're going to be in London, Kentucky, Laurel County, at the Laurel County Courthouse.
Yes. So we will be there in London in front of the Laurel County Courthouse from 4 to 7 Eastern time. And we are fighting against this bill. Got notifications that this bill has been passed by the House. So that's really bad news. So we all know what this bill will do. It will decimate healthcare for millions of Americans, take food out of the mouths of children. It will change the ability for millions of Americans to get access to education. And it'll be devastating for the environment and for global climate change. But this is what they're doing. These people call themselves pro-life, but allow children to die. And they clearly do not care what happens to people. But I'm sure they will start to care when it starts to affect them. So, and there's a lot of voices in Kentucky that are not being heard about this. People I know personally that have called their representatives, called senators, and these people who represent our state have just went ahead and voted on the bill anyways. So that's what we are standing for. We're here to stand for the people.
Well, that's so good to hear. We need more voices in Kentucky and all the surrounding area, because there is so many people that's going to suffer. And it's just really sad to see this bill pass and know what's headed for us. So I'm going to bring a couple more people on the stage here. We have got Lucinda. Lucinda, welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you.
Glad to have you. Tell everybody where you're from.
I am from the beautiful city of Barberville, Kentucky, in the
Awesome.
beautiful Kentucky.
Awesome. I've been through Barberville all of my life. I grew up over in Bell County, so that's just right up the road from me. And we also have joining us today, we have Tammy and we have William. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having us. We really appreciate being here. We are from Corbin, and it's really nice to be on here with you. So,
We really appreciate it. I was reading earlier, I saw Governor Andy Beshear talking about it, and I was reading how there is now 35 hospitals that could potentially close due to this bill. And I have friends all over, Kentucky, and friends from a place like, say, Hyden, Kentucky, which is, kind of back tucked away in the middle of nowhere. They got one hospital, and now if that one closes down, well, the one next door in Harlan could be too, so the surrounding area. So it's going to get really bad for people, and I don't think people understands just how bad it's going to get just yet.
yeah, and I wanted to touch on that as well too. So a few years ago, mine and his mom was rushed to the hospital, and she about died on us. And we had to rush her to the hospital. If hospitals get closed down, people will die. And it was really hard on us because my mom got flown out to Pikeville Hospital, and she was on life support for 3 days. And without being rushed to the hospital, she would have died on us. And having to drive to Lexington or to the nearest hospital because of this bill, so many people is going to die. If they cannot be rushed to the hospital immediately, they will die. And do you want to touch on this a little bit?
Yeah, because if we would have had to drive her any further than Corbin, because Corbin has kind of livened her back up just enough that we could actually get her to a hospital far away by now, a helicopter, and kind of really helped us because they kind of was there to help a little bit and livened her back up, and they realized there was so much that they couldn't handle that their support couldn't do what was wrong with her, so they had to fly her out. It was really bad. So if we wouldn't have got her there to get her out, it would have been she'd probably died.
And without her Medicaid and it would have been really hard because we would have never been able to do that. She was on life support for 3 days, in ICU for a week. There's no way we could have afforded that without, and the helicopter ride, all of the stuff Corbin Hospital did. And without that, we would have had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of medical bills that we couldn't have been able to afford, and my mom would have died on us.
Especially for the insulin they was doing.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize, I've got a lot of people watching from all over the country in different parts of the world. And a lot of people don't realize just how the mountains and stuff wind in Kentucky. So you can be in certain places, like say Middlesboro, Kentucky, for example. If you're over in Frakes, you can be 45 minutes or an hour away from the nearest hospital. And then you think about that one closing down. It's very scary times that we're living in now. And there's a whole lot of people in our part of the world that's been taught this idea that, that Donald Trump and Republicans have their best interest at heart. And one of the things I try to do here on the channel so many times is just keep, driving the point home that they've used people like us. They've used our culture against us, and they've weaponized a lot of people against us. But there's good people that are trying to stand up and speak out and say, hey, we're not going to be able to make it if things like this continues to push through.
I would just like to say on the weaponization, as a trans woman, one of the things that's bothered me so much is the fact that they have turned and made all of the ideas focused on brown and black folks, immigrants coming across the border, trans women and individuals that are in the LGBT community, when in reality it has nothing to do with any of us and only to do with the fact that they are manipulating facts. It takes people's thought process off of what they are doing, taking things away from them. And that's what really made me come on board with Tammy and Andrew when we spoke about it, and they asked me to come on as an organizer, because as a trans woman who's lived in Appalachia my entire life, who had a successful business of 27 years, when you see these types of aggravated assaults being committed by these groups, making people hate people who have grew up in these communities, who have built businesses in these communities for no other purpose than to manipulate their agendas. And we have a lot of representatives in Kentucky that really push these hate-filled agendas towards people like myself. And it pisses me off, and I will not stand by and watch it happen. I'll fight tooth and toenail.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that so much. One thing I say here on the channel so many times is, they get people fighting over something that's never going to affect them or never going to hurt them at all. And I say all the time, the trans person down the street living their life in peace is not bothering you. It's nothing to you. Like Tim Wall said, mind your own damn business. Just keep it to yourself. But they keep people fighting in our part of the world, and I think a lot of people, they may misunderstand people like us because they see fellow Kentuckians, Tennesseans, they see people from the South talking this way, and it's kind of like, what are y'all doing? That's not how we're raised. But we're just trying to raise awareness on what's going to happen, and try to get people to wake up and understand that these things are not good. I'm really worried and concerned. I've got two elderly parents that I take care of. Losing Medicaid, losing their health insurance, and like you said, losing the hospitals around us is something that's really going to, and Kentucky is really, to me, it just looks like they're right on the chopping block. And it's just so sad to see my home state turned into that.
Definitely. The passage of this bill, the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate said it was okay to fire 20,000 Kentucky healthcare workers and close 35 rural hospitals and take Medicaid and EBT away from people who really need it. And, there's, I believe the number is 200,000 people that will be cut off insurance just in the state of Kentucky. I don't know, like that is so that desperately need it. And what happens? What happens when all of these benefits are taken away from the people? It just isn't right. And, we are going to stand up for the people. We're going to stand against people who are trying to hurt the people, and that's just in Kentucky alone. We're doing that, but we hope to move this all across the country. We hope that other people across the country will stand up with us. And, even though we may not ever meet face to face, we can work in our own communities locally, and we can work to make other voices heard. And that's what we're really shooting for to KY Resist.
Well, I'm really glad. I'm so glad you guys are on here, and I'm looking forward. I'm hoping to be able to make it down to the protest Saturday. That's going to be from 4 to 7. Again, that's at the Laurel County Courthouse. And for the people watching on my channel, I raised some money, and we talked about London, Kentucky. They were just devastated by a tornado recently. London and Somerset was. And now, from what I'm hearing, it's all those aids and assistance are going to be taken away. Now, what if something like that rips back through our part of the world again? Where will we be? I think there's, like, as you were saying that about, people on benefits, I was thinking back to my childhood. I grew up in the 80s and during the Reagan years, and my dad drove a coal truck, and then he guarded the mines at night. When he stopped driving the truck, he guarded the mines, and then my mom would work day jobs and clean houses, and we still needed some government assistance. And I think a lot of people don't understand that they always try to paint it like that the people are just mooching the system. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there are people that do, but for the most part, I don't think people truly understand that there's people in Appalachia that's working 2 jobs. Both people in the home is working 2 jobs, and they're still struggling. They still need assistance. And so I think a lot of people need to have a better understanding of that, because there's been such a dark stigma put on it for so long.
Yeah. So like my family, they have several children throughout my family, and at school, like they rely on the school lunch, the free school lunch. And, that's in the bill. That's going to be cut as well. And children who only are able to depend on school, and that's the only time that they can eat, they're not going to be able to eat because they're not going to have the money to afford school lunch anymore. And so many children will go hungry and starve to death because they want to cut it away from children.
Yeah, and going back, I believe it was Andrew who was saying, they talk about being the party of pro-life. There's nothing pro-life about this bill. There's really not, and it's just going to hurt so many people. And it's sad to me to see people, from our parts, kind of being happy about this happening. I saw a TikTok video and I stitched it. I don't know who the guy was. I got the feeling he might have been from our neck of the woods. He looked familiar, but he was painting this image, and he was a young guy, so I kind of took it easy on him. But he was painting this image that, like, hey, the reason why these liberals and progressives are upset about this bill is because they're going to have to get a job and go to work, And it was just such rhetoric that we've heard around here our whole life. And so I stitched the video, and all I said was, like, I'm not here to cast stones at that kid because he's just he's passing down the same rhetoric that's been passed down to him. We've heard that our whole lives, people saying stuff like that. And, so to the people out there that doesn't understand what happened today or is happy about what's happened today, they've really not dove in and read it or got an understanding of it, because it's going to come back and haunt them one day. And people like us, they may look over at us, maybe they may be a couple of us on a street corner somewhere in Southeast Kentucky talking, and they may laugh at us now, but they're not going to be laughing in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, I really do appreciate you all. And I know, so you did Middlesbrough, Manchester, and now it's going to be London.
Yes.
Have you done more than that?
We did Corbin as well.
Corbin, cool.
That's awesome. And Corbin, Williamsburg.
Oh, wow.
We did Corbin, Williamsburg, Barberville.
Yeah. I'm from Knox County.
And Middlesbrough. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I'm finally meeting y'all, because I would have definitely been out to some of these to help you and help y'all promote it, because our part of the world is blood red, and I think a lot of people. The reason that I'm really excited to have y'all on here too is because there's so many people that talks and sounds like us that are afraid to speak out, and there's a lot more people that will agree with us, but they don't necessarily want to say it publicly. Some people are afraid of losing their jobs. When I went out to protest, I went to some in Knoxville and Nashville. Traveled out and spoke at one in Los Angeles, California, and up in Sacramento, and all the ones that I've been to. Like if I go out to like LA or Sacramento, I bump into people and they will talk to me all day. But then if I'm here at one in East Tennessee or somewhere, and I'm like, hey, you want to come on my YouTube channel and talk? It's like, I don't know. I'm afraid of getting fired, or I'm afraid of the heat I'm going to get. So I really admire y'all for standing up and speaking out, because I don't think people outside this part of the world understands how red and conservative and Bible Belt we are. And so it's really good to see people, having the guts to stand up. And I really appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, being an organizer, like the amount of messages we've seen from people within the community and stuff, just like talking about how much this means and like having their voice heard, it means a lot.
Yeah, and when we were in Corbin protesting, we were on the side of the sidewalk, like on the side of the road, and this woman got out and hugged Andrew, and she started crying and said this meant so much to her to see in her hometown that we were protesting, because she had never seen something like this, and she had never seen somebody stand up the way we stand up. And that meant a lot to us, because as organizers, this is what we're there for. We are there for when people need us. They can reach out to us. We're here always. And it's hard to see people who are just like us but are terrified to stand up, because they're scared of what hate they're going to get because of this.
Or also that they can't get out because they might have a health condition that they can't make it, and they stand up for the ones that can't be there. And it just means a lot to us to be able to stand up for the voice that can't be heard, that can't talk and stuff.
Yeah, that's great, man. It really is. So I'm curious, have you been met with any opposition? Because I've heard, that's some of the rumors I've heard, is that, there's going to be Trump supporters there to try to shout them down. Have you been met with any of that, or how's that been?
We have had, when we went to Manchester, there were, I'd say, a couple dozen of us protesting. We did have some opposition. They were on the other side of the road. There was one guy that walked over. He was wearing like a ski mask, and he walked over to me like on my side of the sidewalk, and he had his chest pushed out and like his fists balled up like he was going to hit me. And I just looked at him, smiled, and kept looking at the other crowd across the street and kept chanting. And he just kind of like walked back, and then a police officer came and like made him move. But yeah, I think that these people, I don't believe they were actually going to harm anyone, but I think that what they were attempting to do is intimidate us, make us feel uncomfortable, and make us leave. And when they saw that wasn't going to work with us, they gave up on that. They continued protesting, but nothing else like that.
Yeah, and of course they got a ski mask on. I'm not surprised at all to hear that. You're out there showing your face. You're willing to die on that hill, and then here they are, being that way. But there's a lot of yeah. And there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of people that wants to intimidate, and I think that's why for me there was confusion on my end as to where these protests were happening or if they were happening, because I would see stuff on Facebook and then I would see people saying, "Oh, that's not happening. That's not happening. It's not going to be here." And so it was kind of hard for me to figure out what was what, because I think there's a lot of people out there trying to muddy the water too. and get people to think, oh, that would never happen in Middlesboro, So I'm glad to know now we could stay in contact. I'll know exactly where you're going to be and when, so that we can get out there and do it, because I don't care if it's just us standing on the side of the road. We gotta stand up for people, and like William was saying, there's a lot of people that can't make it out. And, I have a lot of people that will say to me, I don't speak up or don't speak out, or I can't, or I'm not physically able to even leave my house. And they watch YouTube every day. And so we just got to keep speaking up and speaking out for people. But before we go, I definitely want to let everyone know where they can find you. So where's the best way to get in touch with and to find and follow KY Resist?
So you can follow us on Facebook. It's actually under KY Resist. You can follow our page there. You can also follow our website, www.kyresist.com. You can put in your email there and subscribe to us. You can keep up with all events, everything that's coming up. And we're going to be in different towns, different cities of Kentucky. We're hoping to move these protests all over the state. So, you can keep up that way. Every event, though, I post it multiple times on the actual KY Resist Facebook. So, that's honestly the best place to keep up with us, but you can also follow our website.
Awesome. That sounds great. And so this Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m., you'll be at the Laurel County Courthouse, London, Kentucky, correct?
Yes.
And you got any more scheduled for after that, or are they going to be to be announced?
I think that we have a couple more on the schedule, on the calendar, but we have not publicly released those yet.
Okay.
We're still, I think the next one coming up after that is in Harlan, I believe.
Awesome.
I'll have to double check my calendar and check the date, but after the London protests, I will be posting a flyer on there on the KY Resist Facebook page for that one as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to be getting a tattoo up in Harlan on Saturday from a very like-minded dude who I'm sure, would love to take part and be there to see y'all. And so as long as I can get done in time and make it over to London, I'll be there to shake your hand. And I just
Awesome.
Really appreciate you for coming on. And before we go, has anybody got anything else you want to say to the people out there? And, before we part ways?
Come and protest.
I do want to say, come to the protest. And I also want to thank you so much for having us on. This means a lot to us. We never thought we would get the chance to be able to do something like this and have our voices heard. So we really do appreciate this.
I sure appreciate you all, and you're welcome here anytime. So just reach out to me anytime, and we'll do it again. Hell, we'll try to go live from a protest or two if we can get out there and let people see what we're doing, because it's time. I think I'm excited to have you all here, because I'm so tired of seeing people not being afraid to speak. And so maybe we can rally the troops and get them ready to go, because I think there's a lot more people like us than people realize out there in Southeast Kentucky. And
there is, but it's just, we've heard so many people while doing this, in the short amount of time that we've been doing this so far, we've heard so many people say, I'm with you all. I stand with you, but I can't come out and stand on the street with you. And when we ask why, because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what could happen to me. I don't want someone to find out where I live. I don't want someone to find me and hurt me, because they're scared to get out there, because they don't know what would happen to them. But if you don't get out there and try and just sit back and let it happen, what's the point? Well, we have to get out and fight.
Exactly. And what I say to people too is, to the people that are afraid to speak up, and trust me, I understand why. I know there's a lot of opposition in this part. There's a lot of people that are very loud and, bullies and stuff. But the thing about it is that I always tell people is someone like me, looking the way I look and dressing the way I dress, I can always just sink back into my whiteness whenever I want to. You know what I mean? I can just go right back to, I don't have to. So what I say is, if you got the courage to speak up and speak out, other people will see that. They'll see that, and they'll start to draw inspiration from it. I mean, we can talk trash about Trump all day, but he empowers people to be bold for all the wrong reasons. Exactly. So if we can empower people to be, bold for all the right reasons, I think we can start to make true progress.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I truly do appreciate y'all so much for coming on the channel. And again, everybody, be sure to get out there if you're in the area. Come out to London, Kentucky, Laurel County Courthouse, 4 to 7. This Saturday. I'll be there as soon as I get my tattoo done. And I'm really looking forward to it. And again, I really, truly appreciate all of you. Thank you for what you're doing, and just keep up the good work. And everybody also go follow their page, KY Resist, on Facebook. And it was kyresist.com. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for being here. You're welcome back here anytime.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So, everybody, I really enjoyed having KY Resist on the show. And, I tell people all the time when I'm talking about my little sleepy corner of the world that there's good people out there, there's good voices out there, and they're tired of this. They're tired of Donald Trump and what he's about, and the MAGA movement and what they're about. And, once this bill becomes law and it starts to affect more people, hopefully the people that thought they were going to get cheaper eggs will start to wake up and realize that that's not the case. I saw John Snyder that played Bo Duke celebrating this whole thing. And I was like, buddy, you have no clue what you're even talking about. He was talking about how there was, I'm for no tax on tips. And I'm like, well, if you'd have read it a little bit closer, that's going to expire in 3 years, but the billionaires are taken care of forever. And so there's just a lot of misinformation and a lot of bullshit floating around out there about it. But we'll keep putting in the work, and I'm going to keep featuring voices like this on the show and letting them be heard, because there's more of us out there than people realize. So I thank you all so much for tuning in on the special Thursday show. It's kind of hard to say happy 4th of July because of everything we're going through. But I will just say to have a safe weekend, and remember, we're on the right side of history. That's what I would say to all the people in KY Resist and all the people around this protesting. No matter what, we're on the right side of history. I really do believe that. And so we're just going to have to buckle down and put in the work, and it might get bumpy. The ride might get bumpy and outrageous at times, but we got to hang on. And like William was saying, we got to speak up for the people that can't. And so that's what we'll continue to do. And I thank you all so much for your support here on the channel. And I will have KY Resist back. If you see us out at the protest, come up, shake our hand, meet us, and we'll talk about these things and move things forward. And if you come up in a ski mask, we're just going to keep talking louder. You're not going to scare us. We're not going to back down ever. It's like the old song "For What It's Worth" that I recovered. There's battle lines being drawn. We're not stopping. So no one's going to shut up on our side. So they may be loud, but we got to get louder, and we will. And so again, thank you all so much to KY Resist for coming on, and thanks to everyone who tuned in here on the channel to catch this Thursday evening show. Y'all have a safe weekend. Take care of yourselves out there. And I love y'all. And we'll see you again soon.